Fantasy football podcast called Living the Stream comes to you each week. Streaming recommendations during NFL season, it's not just tongue-in-cheek. Quarterback, defense, tight end recommendations based on opposition matchup. Here are your podcast hosts, JJ Zachariason and Denny Carter, living the stream.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Living the Stream. I'm JJ Zachariason, the late round quarterback, and I am joined, as always, by my lovely, lovely co-host, Denny Carter. Denny, what's up?
I'm just glad that I got everything right in week one. Everything was according to plan. Obviously, no, of course, everything was a disaster, except for that I was lucky enough finally to take you down in the listeners league after you have dominated me in that league for years and years. I got one.
Yeah, my team, not super hot in that league. I'm not like overly excited. I didn't have Judy this week, and that a player like that can matter, in such a deep format like that.
Yeah.
So didn't have Judy, but I started Rashid Shaheed against you. I was pretty excited about that.
I was tilting a little bit when he caught that touchdown, and then he almost caught another one. Yeah. And I thought, oh no, it's happening. Rashid Shaheed is going to blow me up.
Man, I'm fixing my hair right now because I realized that it's kind of out of control today. But we got a lot of hair questions, by the way.
Really?
Have you just been bombarded with hair questions since you changed your haircut?
Yes, and also your hair is looking good. It's looking very high.
Yeah, I know. And my wife and I always joke that the higher it is, the higher my hair goes, is the more formal it is, right? The more formal the occasion is,
right.
when it's higher. And I think I got to like push it down a lot because this is an informal podcast, an informal situation. I don't need to look a certain way for the people that are viewing this on YouTube, by the way. We are on YouTube live every episode, the Late Round Fantasy Football YouTube channel. How have you been? How did week one go for you?
Not bad. I mean, Tyler Algier scored twice, so that's all that I really cared about. No, I'm kidding. I took very little pleasure in being correct on Bijan for 1 week, but I talked about it on the Roto World Football Show, which you can check out anywhere you get podcasts, and on the NFL and NBC YouTube page. It's probably the low watermark for Bijan. You guys will be fine.
I think it's a situation that's sort of like an Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon type deal where Bijan's sort of the Aaron Jones, going to see a lot of receiving work probably. The one thing that with the Falcons offense in general, number one, like I was into Drake London this year and people have let me know that I was into Drake London this year. Like I get it, guys. Like I'm not going to get everything right. I like Drake London partially because of the way that teams were built, similar to Christian Watson. Whenever you're drafting guys in that range, you could get backup at wide receiver in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. And it didn't matter if those guys like completely busted per se. Right. You're just really buying into the talent profile, which I still think exists for Drake London. I think he's a very, very good player. And that Atlanta offense, though, just in week one, obviously people will generalize and say that it was an extension of what happened last year, which is not totally wrong, where, it's a very run heavy offense. They had like a 41% pass rate this past week. It was like 45% with, it was closer to like 48% with Desmond Ridder last year. But regardless, they were a run heavy team in week one. And people are going to say, well, this is why it was stupid to draft Kyle Pitts or draft Drake London. And I understand that. Like, of course we all understood that as part of their range of outcomes. But the thing that I don't think people fully grasp is that when you're looking at a 1-game sample, the Atlanta Falcons had a 53% target share to running backs in that game. Right. That is not going to maintain whatsoever. I don't care if you think that, you can sit there, well, they drafted Bijan Robinson. Okay, they're not even going to probably hit a 30% target share with the running backs throughout the season. It's just not what teams generally see. I mean, they might, but that's just not what teams generally see. So I think that, with these week one overreactions, we can react. Like Drake London dropped from a wide receiver 2 to a wide receiver 3 in my rest of season rankings. Like, I think it's fine to react like that, but man, people just are so over the top because it's the one instance, the one game, the one sample that we have, since we started studying all of this stuff basically in February last year. And it's very easy to take that one simple game and one game sample and stretch it across everything. But look, we did a lot of research before the season started. Let's at least stick to that to some degree.
I agree. Also, Taylor Heineke may be your salvation if you have Drake London, and I think he'll be more aggressive. I think that he'll make Pitts in London more viable if he does get in there, and I think he will. I don't think that Desmond Ridder is a long-term starter there. I want to say this kind of funny when the Falcons drafted Bijan and said he's a weapon, and we're going to use him in the slot, and we're going to use him outside, and this and that, and I said, I was very vocal. This is ridiculous. No one uses running backs in the slot. Blah blah blah. They used him in the slot in week 1. He ran, I think, a third of his routes from the slot. So it's all right. Well, I guess this is happening.
The one thing I'll say too, though, with Arthur Smith is that he had a season before last season where they weren't as run heavy. It's not like he, as a head coach, is going to automatically be this like 42% pass rate offense. I think a lot of it is this combination of they're extremely efficient on the ground. They're more efficient on the ground than they're going to be through the air.
Right.
And in his mind, even if you look at expected points, it might not totally align with that. But in his mind, that's the case. But they are so efficient on the ground that it's hard to like totally fault Arthur Smith. But at the same time, he's just walking into like purgatory. He's walking into this team being a 7-8 win team instead of them actually taking a chance to be something better and something more significant in a division that sucks.
By the way, Arthur Smith is awfully dismissive of people who play fantasy football, which is really quite a brave stance since it's the only reason anybody watches the NFL.
Specifically, at least the Atlanta Falcons. Let's be
right.
real.
Nobody cares about the Falcons outside of fantasy managers. I don't really know what's up with that. He said this week, Drake London doesn't care that he wasn't targeted or that he didn't have a catch against the Panthers. Here's the thing about that statement is that I know it's false. I know that Drake London definitely cares that he's not part of the team right now.
Yeah, right. Like we've all played team sports before.
Yeah.
Right. We want our team to win, sure. But we also, especially as a professional, where Drake London's on his rookie contract, and that these agents are going to these teams saying, look at these stats, look at what he compiled. And now they're going to go look at this yards per route run rate. And these teams are going to be like, I don't care about yards per route run. Show me how many total yards he had.
Exactly.
Show me how many catches he had. And he's not going to get that because this offense is stupid. It's annoying. It's frustrating.
He very much cares. It's just tremendous galaxy braining on the part of Arthur Smith. Someone mentioned to me that, he comes from money. Arthur Smith comes from like literally like a billionaire family. And
it makes me hate him even more.
Yeah. And, he might just want to feel alive and feeling alive for him is operating a football team like it's 1979. And saying, we're going to stick it to the analytics, folks. I guess that's the only thing I can come up with for Arthur Smith.
You know what made me feel alive today? This is a change of subject, but
what's that?
You know what I did today?
What did you do?
I rucked.
Are we allowed to say that on air?
Have you heard about rucking? You haven't heard about rucking?
I have not. The Zoomers rucking?
Probably. So I listened to a lot of Dr. Peter Attia. He's one of those internet doctors, but he's very, very scientific with his approach on longevity, right? So he's very into like studying how people live longer, what they should do, etc. And in his book, one of his books that he just came out with, he talks about rucking, which is where you wear like a backpack or a weighted vest and you go walking with the weighted vest. I went around my neighborhood and on the trails today because I try to get out. At least I try to exercise, do some movement every day. But on Tuesdays when things are so crazy, I just need to get out and go for like a walk just to like clear my mind and stuff and just get away from fantasy football because Tuesdays are so insane. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be doing that. I might as well start rucking. I'm starting at 20 pounds and I put a 20-pound vest on my body.
Yeah.
Weighted vest. And I looked like in suburban Charlotte that I was about to commit some sort of mass murder.
Right. right. Yeah, you look like you're about to overthrow the government.
Yeah, it was. And so whenever I left, my wife said, just make sure that you look friendly to everyone and
right.
that you wave to people.
Please smile and don't wear camouflage or anything. That would scare people. By the way, speaking of weighted vests, but I have heard of this, the rucking. I haven't rucked since college, but I have heard of the kids rucking. Now, I will say that my brother-in-law, when I used to play racquetball with him, he would wear a weighted vest, which was a huge insult to me. I just took
that's a massive insult to you.
Right? I took it as just a slap in the face because we were pretty evenly matched. Okay. Like I would win some, he went, we were both.
Was that with the vest though?
No. With the vest, thankfully I did the winning, but he would put on a 20-pound vest and he would be, gassed after like 4 points. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, let's play. And he's like, no. I need this as a challenge, just to challenge myself. I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. I'm not a challenge. You need the best to be a challenge. I got so upset about it. It wasn't even
fun. Yeah. I mean, that's also, like that's one of the sports where like you have to be really agile, obviously. I mean, it's like a very quick, type, like to be using a 20-pound vest while playing racquetball. That seems a little rough.
It was a little much.
Someone says in chat, Anthony says that weights in a backpack looks a little less scary. That's true, but it's not as convenient because, well, number one, I don't even know. Is it less scary if you're walking? Like we have like trails and it's our neighborhood. And then we have these greenways and stuff that we're walking down. I don't know. I feel like when most people see you in a vest, they're probably assuming you either have like one of those like water things that you'll just be able to grab some water out of, or they understand that it's a weighted vest. Whereas if it's a backpack, they're like, where is he going to put this bomb? Like what, like it's more that direction. Then I feel like the weighted vest is probably more acceptable than a backpack. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think either one you could look as my kids say, you could look sus, JJ.
Yes. All right, let's recap what happened in week 1. I'd say overall, Denny, I'm kind of pleased with week 1's results because it's week 1. We don't have that much data. We don't really know what's going to go down. And we looked. We did decent, especially at quarterback. We had Sam Howell. He scored a respectable 15.2 fantasy points. Jordan Love scored 23. Baker Mayfield, who was a deeper play, scored 16. When you compare that to what a lot of other people were starting in their fantasy leagues this week, you were right there. You didn't lose out at quarterback this week if you ended up streaming the position. So that was good. Tight end, not as good. Jake Ferguson could have had a really big day. He had some really good usage at least. He scored 3 fantasy points, but that game script just got out of hand for Dallas. Greg Dulcich ended up getting hurt. Before Dulcich got hurt, he was playing as the tight end 1. Like there was at one point he had run 10 routes to Adam Troutman's 2. So things were trending up for Dulcich. And then obviously, he's a player that I touted this offseason. So of course he has to get hurt. Hunter Henry scores 16.6. He was the big win at tight end this past week. Luke Musgrave, we'll get into him in a second. He scores 8. Cade Otton, 3.9. Noah Gray, 6.1. Isaiah Likely, 1.4. That was the Isaiah Likely thing was a big disappointment. He got the first pass of the game too.
I know. I was like, oh my God, this guy's going to catch 15 passes today.
Yeah. And then it turned into the Zay Flowers show. Defense, not great because Seattle really S the B. They scored -1 points. So that's a bad start. Green Bay, the Packers scored 15. So, if you picked one of our two, then you were okay. But I was shocked. One of the most shocking outcomes, I think, I wasn't as shocked at the Cleveland Cincinnati outcome as I was the Seattle LA outcome.
I know, that really was stunning.
Yeah. I think that was a bigger shocker.
Yeah.
Considering, Cleveland's good, right? Like Cleveland's has the players, has the personnel. The Rams don't. They don't have it. They were just well coached on Sunday. It was really
all you need is Puka, apparently.
Yeah, that's right. We should have victory lapped Puka together.
I know
to start the show.
We were on board early. Your model, right? Your model identified him.
Yeah, it didn't. The model itself didn't love him, but it was one of those things where one of the reasons why I love doing the prospecting stuff and like looking at every single player that goes to the combine is because you and I do write-ups for these guys is because you dig into these players and you dig into their profiles. And with Puka Nacua, there were positive indicators that he was good. There were, at BYU, they used him in a lot of different ways, creatively. And that's usually a signal for talent in some way. He had that second highest yards per route run last season in college football. So there were some indicators. And then, over the summer, there was some hype, and it was just like, yeah, I'm going to jump on this because there were some of these indicators. I thought that he was going to be like the Robert Woods in that offense. It's sort of the way that I described it to folks throughout the offseason.
Yeah, he scored 25 PPR points, and he dropped 2 passes. He could have been over 30. Yeah. He was targeted. He had a first read rate of 43%. That's crazy.
It was crazy. And the other thing that's crazy too is that he lined up on the outside on like 3/4 of his routes and those snaps. Yeah. I mean, he can live with Cooper Kupp, I think, like once Cooper Kupp comes back. So
I think you're right.
Yeah. So it was good to see Nacua. I actually, I have him in a lot of leagues and stuff, and a lot of dynasty leagues. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm going to diversify in this league, my home league. And I'm kind of streaming tight end. Isaiah Likely was out there. So I dropped Nacua on Saturday for Isaiah Likely.
Yeah.
That was a great feeling.
I have a good amount of Nacua in best ball, and I still feel FOMO. I'm like, why didn't I just commit to the bit and just go all in?
Right. I think all I did on Sunday, whenever things were going bad for some of my teams, I just opened up my best ball apps and I just stared at my Nacua exposure, and I'm like, all right, I'm at 17%. I'm good. And that's what I said.
That's exactly what I. That's funny because I was getting my butt kicked in DFS. I was like, let's go to the best ball.
Yeah. All right, Denny, let's kick off this week's streamers. I think I have more at quarterback, so I'll start.
You do.
I think the top streamer this week, maybe you disagree, but I think the top streamer this week might be Derek Carr. Maybe this
I like him a lot.
Yeah, maybe this is a little bit of a hot take to say that he's a top streamer. I also don't think that there's like amazing options this week overall. Like there's some flags for each of these guys, but I don't think that week one, so they get Carolina, the Saints get Carolina. I don't think that week one really tells us anything about that Panthers secondary per se, because Atlanta was so run heavy and they played Desmond Ridder and they dumped off the ball to their running backs so frequently. I don't really think that tells us that much. What I do know is that JC Horn's not going to play for Carolina in week 2. That's a huge, huge blow to that secondary. This game does have a low total, which is a little bit concerning. But the Saints still have the 14th best implied team total this week out of all teams. And the Saints actually threw the ball last week. I mean, they were 15th in overall pass rate, 13th in neutral script pass rate. They threw it down the field. They had the highest air yards per attempt in the league in week 1. So I think it all comes together. There could be some big plays in this offense throughout the season. You have Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed who could really get vertical. And again, without JC Horn in the secondary, I think Derek Carr could be in store for a decent game.
Carr was really good. You wouldn't know it because I think he scored like 16 fantasy points or something against Tennessee. But and by the way, Tennessee's bad. We're going to be targeting them all year. But Derek Carr, 27% deep ball rate. You mentioned the air yards. That was the highest in the NFL. 5th in completion rate over expected. So I think that he can function really well in this offense.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. I just want to mention Brock Purdy. He's available in 40% of leagues, multiple touchdown throws in all 7 of his NFL starts. And basically, the Niners are heavy favorites against the Rams, 8-point favorites at this moment. This week, Purdy is the kind of guy who will continue to benefit from neutral and positive game script, where he's not going to be forced into a corner where teams can sort of, what is the phrase, pin their ears back and rush the passer. That's not really going to happen with Purdy. So you can continue starting him this week against the Rams. Should I get my other one now, or you want to go to yours?
I guess I'll go to the other one. Yeah, because Purdy, the reason Purdy is like a fringe. He's not really someone that we can like put in our spreadsheet and say
right.
He's a streamer for us this week, but he's someone who's going to be available in a lot of leagues. He scores basically like 17 fantasy points every game. Like there's not much fluctuation from that. So he's just a very safe option overall. I'll move on to Jordan Love, who gets Atlanta this week. I actually think this game could get really ugly. Like it could be a really, really ugly, boring, bad offensive game. Green Bay has an okay enough implied team total of 21. I I'm not like super excited about that. Love was second in the NFL last week in EPA per dropback, but a lot of that was big play driven. You know, you had that like Aaron Jones play and such. He actually had a pretty poor completion rate over expected. And so I'm a little bit concerned about Love, you know, not against like Chicago's defense might be horrible again. Like it just might be a really, really bad defense. They don't really know what they're doing. There's a chance that Chicago is ready to like blow it up again, like next year, right? Like there's a legit possibility that this is just not going to work with like Justin Fields and the way this team is built with their offensive line and stuff. So again, I'm going to look at last week with Chicago with a grain of salt in the way that Jordan Love performed. I think that he's going to be fine though against Atlanta. It's a beatable secondary. You know, they were fine, but they played Bryce Young last week, you know, rookie quarterback in his first start. I think it's fine to go Jordan Love, but I would still be playing Derek Carr over a guy like Jordan Love.
Speaking of the Bears, it would be nice if Justin Fields did some running in the coming weeks. We'll see.
Oh my gosh. Happens. What an egregious offensive performance by the
God. Just like embarrassing on every level. Yeah. All right. We're going back to Sam Howell here. I see him, I guess, more of as a floor play against the Broncos this week. I don't see this as necessarily anything like close to a shootout. I was kind of surprised by this, JJ. He only ran twice against the Cardinals, 11 yards and a touchdown in the green zone. So, you know, that'll get us by. Not something we necessarily want to rely on. Lots of short throws, had one of the lowest ADOTs of the week among qualifying quarterbacks. But hey, you know, for some reason, the Broncos secondary particularly was terrible against the Raiders in week 1. Maybe that carries over. Jimmy Garoppolo had the second highest completion rate over expected of the week against Denver. Was amazing, like incredibly good. I did not see that coming at all. So maybe Hal can take advantage of that. Honestly, though, I'm only starting him if I'm pretty desperate there.
Yeah, I think that Hal's going to be someone that we're going to get more excited about in like a shootout type environment, like facing a team like I don't even know if they're on their schedule, but like a Miami, for instance, right?
Where he's really pushed.
Right, exactly. Speaking of Miami, though, Mac Jones is in that environment this week. Miami's coming off a game where Justin Herbert had a +4% completion rate over expected. He was the QB4 on the week. Now, obviously, that's Justin Herbert. This is Mac Jones. But Miami still doesn't have Jalen Ramsey, obviously. It's still a good defense, still a defense that I'm not, overly excited to use a quarterback against per se. But I do think that when you're talking about this Miami offense where, they were second in the league in ADOT last week. They have a strong pass rate. We know they're going to throw the ball vertically and they're going to keep up pace. And then you look at what Mac Jones did in week 1, in arguably a tougher matchup against Philadelphia. But in week 1, Mac Jones threw at 15 plus air yards on 18.5% of his throws, which is pretty average, maybe a little bit above average at the end of the day. But he did it 10 times because they threw the ball so much. So we have evidence now that New England will not be afraid to throw the ball a lot if a game script or game environment dictates that, which is sort of what happened to some degree last week in Philadelphia. I think that there's a chance that Miami dictates that even earlier than Philadelphia did this past week. And so New England's going to have to keep up the pace with Miami. They were 7th in neutral script pass rate last week. New England was. They were 3rd in overall pass rate. It's good that we have a coordinator in Bill O'Brien now who is not afraid to just sort of let things loose, let things go in this offense, and trust that Mac Jones can make the throws. So I realistically think that we could see another 40-plus attempt outing from Mac Jones this week. And so I would put him. I haven't ranked my quarterbacks yet for the week, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if I have him over Jordan Love this week.
I actually would. I would definitely go with Jones over Love. Love's underlying numbers were not great.
Not nearly as good as what people probably think and how well he did. And I know that a lot of pundits are saying, "Oh, Green Bay's back," the yada yada yada. I'll feel a lot better about Jordan Love if Christian Watson goes.
That's right. Yeah, me too. I think I'm all out of quarterbacks. Did you have one more? Or is that?
Now that I'm looking at it, no, I don't. So let's move on to tight end. You have a lot of tight ends.
I do.
You have tight ends. So go ahead and talk.
So many more tight ends than you've ever seen. Hayden Hurst. We'll start with Hayden Hurst off the top here. He targeted on 26% of his routes against Atlanta in week 1, caught 5 of 7 targets for 41 yards and a touchdown. First read target on 27% of his routes. That was second among tight ends in week 1. So apparently Hayden Hurst is a priority in the Carolina passing attack, which I guess maybe it shouldn't be shocking since there's really not much else going on there for the Panthers. Again, I think we're talking floor, PPR scammy type stuff for Hurst going forward.
I'm going to go to Adam Troutman, who gets Washington. I don't know if Adam Troutman's like that good of a player, but no Greg Dulcich. As I said earlier, Dulcich was running more routes than Troutman before getting hurt, but Troutman is now the top tight end in Denver. He played 70% of their snaps last week. He was third on the team in routes run. I do think that Troutman's more attractive if Jerry Jeudy doesn't go again. But it sounded like he was trending in the right direction last week. He's probably going to, I'd give him like a 70% chance to go this week, maybe like as if I'm a doctor, but I would say like a 70% chance, maybe.
You sound like a doctor.
But Washington is their opponent this week, and Washington just got owned by Zach Ertz. Oh, well, I say they got owned. He only had 21 receiving yards, but he led the NFL in tight end target share, 33.3%. So maybe there's a little bit of a matchup situation there. Why not? I mean, Troutman's okay.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of Zach Ertz, he is also a streamer this week against the Giants. Like you said, 33% target share, which is insane. 84% route share, route participation rate in week 1. 10 targets for 21 yards. You can't ask for any more. Okay. But obviously there's going to be a lot of dump offs, a lot of short stuff with this horrible Arizona offense. You're not going to complain. I feel like you have no room to complain if you're starting Zach Ertz and he gets you like 12 to 15 PPR points. Yeah.
I mean, he's a really boring option, but he ran the most routes for the team. He ran 22 more routes than Trey McBride. Like, man, he's the dude apparently in that offense, but I don't know if the ceiling's ever going to be there for him. I'm going to go with a guy who does have a ceiling, I think, not only this week, but rest of the season, Luke Musgrave.
Yes.
Luke Musgrave talked about it a little bit last week, I think, but he was one of the 3 tight ends this year in this year's draft class that got to the 90th percentile in my prospect model. It was Dalton Kincaid, Sam Laporta, and then Luke Musgrave because he's insanely athletic. We saw Hayden Hurst have a nice day against Atlanta last week. Maybe that was just by default because there's not many other options there. But Musgrave was arguably more involved in his offense last week than Hayden Hurst was for Carolina. Musgrave ran the most routes for Green Bay. He saw 4 targets, 50 yards on those targets. And it was on 21 routes run. We had 50 yards on 21 routes run, which is an insane yards per route run rate. I mean, it's a very, very good yards per route run rate. I think that he's a really, really good play if Christian Watson doesn't go, and he's still a good play if Christian Watson does go.
He also should have had 20 more yards and a touchdown. He fell down on a not so great throw from Jordan Love. Musgrave was wide open down the field. I saw this when I was watching the dots, by the way, and Ferguson fell, or not Ferguson. Musgrave fell, and so it actually should have, could have, would have been a 20-point day.
Yeah.
We'll keep going with tight ends here. We have 1.2 million tight ends. Jake, don't call me Turd Ferguson, ran a route on 63% of Dak Prescott's dropbacks on Sunday night against the Giants. Dropped a touchdown, an egregious drop, one that made me quite upset. He led the Cowboys with 3 targets inside the 10-yard line, so that's good. I think that you're starting him. You can just continue to start him. His usage was good. His target stuff was good. He was targeted on 46% of his routes in week 1. That was tops among all tight ends. So you have that going for you. The process. I think Turd delivers for you in week 2.
Yeah, I hope so. You really got to hope too that the Jets are able to just move the ball offensively.
I mean, you're right. It's a horrible environment, I will say.
Yeah, it would have been great if Aaron Rodgers didn't. What was your reaction to the Aaron Rodgers thing? Like your honest reaction. I
refuse to believe that he was actually hurt. I was like, this cannot be. This, like, after all this hype, this cannot be, because the type of injury it looked like was catastrophic, right? I mean, like it clearly wasn't like, oh man, I busted my finger on a follow through. It was like, this is either all or nothing right now. So
yeah,
that was kind of my reaction. How about you?
I would agree. Yeah, it just sucks. Like I did get a little bit upset at other people's reactions on Twitter. Like, sure, he has the beliefs that he has and all, but there's no need to like destroy the dude when something like that bad happens. I think it'd be better. It's fine if you want to say, I hope that he doesn't play that well. You know, that's different than I hope he tears his Achilles and then all of a sudden he like what are the chances that he just retires now? 50-50? Like,
I'd say honestly, I think he's played his last snap. Yeah.
Yeah. And that alone, because Aaron Rodgers on a football field is entertaining and was spectacular throughout his career. And that alone sucks. Plus, we're now missing out on Garrett Wilson and what he might be able to do with a really good quarterback. So the whole thing is just crazy. And I feel bad for Jets fans because, my gosh, I mean, talk about a cursed franchise with a quarterback.
It really is. It really is. It's something I don't really. I mean, somebody sold their soul to Satan when Joe Namath won his Super Bowl because it's been pretty bad since then. I will say, I think the Jets are a playoff team if they can get a starting quarterback. And Zach Wilson is not a pro style, pro ready quarterback. So if they can get somebody in there to like make the offense function, that defense is good enough to get them to the postseason, I think.
Yeah, it could be. All right, next tight end, I'm going to go with Durham Smythe. Don't call me Smith. He gets New England this week. Denny, Durham Smythe led all Miami pass catchers in routes run this past week.
I know. How is that?
It's insane. It's insane. He's associated with a high-scoring offense, which is good, right? He caught 3 for 44 last week. He had a 16% target share. I don't think that he's an easy play, but I definitely think that he, from peripherals, from a process standpoint, he does make sense.
It's everything you're looking for in a waiver wire tight end. Like, good offense, lots of I mean, and honestly, like Mike Gesicki was not operating like this in the Miami offense. So obviously they like Smythe more. Yeah, I kind of like him.
All right, I think that's my last one. So I think you have like 2 more. We have so many tight ends.
Well, Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry.
Yeah. First, and I'll just be real quick. I think Hunter Henry is an every week starting tight end. First in tight end yards in week 1, only 56, but you know how it goes. He was 3rd in tight end pass routes on the week against the Eagles. So just keep him rolling. Really good offensive environment, like we said. Against the Dolphins. And who else do I?
And then we have Juwan Johnson too against Carolina.
Juwan Johnson, 85% route participation rate. I think that, like I said, I mean, Carr being good for this offense, being aggressive downfield should pay off for, not only Olave and Rashid Shaheed, but also I think Michael Thomas and Juwan Johnson. It was good to see Johnson because our concern last year with Johnson was that he's only running a route on half or even fewer of the Saints snaps. So we don't have that problem through 1 week, which is good.
All right, let's move on to defense. I'll start. Cleveland is probably the easiest go-to this week because they played really well last week. They're 2.5-point road favorites against Pittsburgh. There's a 40.5-point over-under. That all comes together looking good. The Steelers allowed one of the highest pressure rates in week 1. The Browns were great against Joe Burrow. There's no Deontay Johnson. It seems like on paper this would be like the Mike Tomlin bounce back spot, but I don't know if that happens with the Deontay injury, the way the Steelers looked in week 1. I do think that people are not giving enough credit to how good San Francisco probably is based on last week. But at the same time, I think that, and I was part of this too. I thought that there could be a nice jump from the Steelers into year 2 and Kenny Pickett maybe improving. And week 1, they did not get off to a hot start.
You say that again. And they lost Cam Hayward on defense. It's going to be ugly, I think, for the Steelers for a while here. And did you mention the Deontay Johnson injury?
Yeah, the Deontay. I mean, look, they're going to be trotting out George Pickens, who I don't think is him, right?
He is not him.
That's what the Zoomers say. Yeah,
they love to say that.
So George Pickens, I don't even think George Pickens really sees that big of an increase in target share without Deontay Johnson. Honestly, I think that he plays this role. He's just, the Matt Canada offense is so uninspiring. He just runs these 9 routes all the time. And he just gets vertical, and they're not creative with him whatsoever. So I don't think George Pickens is going to see that big of a bump. And then you're going to have Allen Robinson, who's obviously probably, relatively washed. And then Calvin Austin, who has some juice. And honestly, this offense needs that kind of juice. When you look at Najee Harris and George Pickens, obviously, he's not like this big separator. And then Allen Robinson obviously isn't giving it to you. And Deontay Johnson isn't totally giving it. I mean, Deontay Johnson falls over when he catches the ball. And so having Calvin Austin there, I actually think they should be using him more in the offense just in general. So I don't think that's that bad of a dart throw on deep rosters or in dynasty leagues if he's out there. I am a little bit intrigued by Calvin Austin. He's another one of those like super fun Memphis guys because who gave us Tony Pollard and Antonio Gibson and all these fun Kenneth Gainwell and all these fun like pseudo athletic dudes.
Mike Tomlin loves Calvin Austin, according to his quotes from the preseason. And Calvin Austin, they would do well to get Calvin Austin involved in the offense. So I agree there. I'm sorry, I've lost track. What are we talking about?
Well, start the Cleveland Browns defense. Okay. Yeah. You got another defense.
Yes. I had the Packers defense playing the Falcons, low total. Packers blitzed a lot last year. They blitzed a lot in week 1. So could have with the Packers, I think we could have a sack-based floor. Including against Desmond Ridder, who really, I mean, come on, Desmond Ridder, for as much talk as there was in some football circles about him as like some sort of mobile quarterback, he's not mobile. Like, if he's blitzed, he's not able to get flushed out of the pocket and make something happen. That's not happening. So I do think the Packers have a pretty safe floor here.
I'm going to go with the Giants, who get Arizona. This is just a classic streaming situation. They're 4.5-point favorites, 39.5-point over-under, bounce back spot for them. Cardinals allowed a top 5 sack rate in week 1. That was even without facing Chase Young. So go ahead and go with the New York Giants.
Lions against the Seahawks. Lions are 2-point home favorites. The Seahawks offensive line is very, very banged up. They have, who do they call? They called that old guy, Jason Peters. They're signing 41-year-old Jason Peters because they are down spectacularly bad on the offensive line. Detroit has a pretty good pass rush. Let's see. I do have a stat here I want to share with the folks. Oh, Geno was pressured on 46% of his dropbacks in week 1. That's the 6th highest rate in the league. So again, sack-based floor here for the Lions.
Yeah, actually, the Lions, a lot of people are going to be scared off of the Lions, especially in like DFS and stuff, probably because that could end up being a shootout. Because last year, we saw them almost score like 100 points in that game. And so people are going to be scared off. But I do think that there's some intrigue given how bad the offensive line played for Seattle in week 1.
I think this could be a fairly boring, low-scoring game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay against Chicago. Justin Fields ended up playing really conservatively in week 1. They were 2nd in the league in running back target share, which is not a normal thing for a team with a mobile quarterback, and let alone, that team. I don't think that they can do that again. And I think that they know that they can't do that again. So they probably will be a little bit more aggressive with the ball. The Packers even still got 4 sacks on Justin Fields last week, despite the fact that his ADOT was as low as it was. He's notoriously bad at taking sacks. Tampa Bay is actually a 3-point home favorite, low over under game. The Bears have the 27th ranked implied team total. Tampa Bay, man, I mean, they might be able to start 2-0 with this game in Chicago.
They're really blowing this Caleb Williams thing, I think.
Yeah, for real.
I just wanted to mention the Texans against the Colts, 40-point total in this game. Anthony Richardson had the 8th lowest completion rate over expected in week 1. I'm thinking we're going to see some mistakes from the rookie in the coming weeks. I think Houston makes for a deeper streaming play.
Yeah, so we got Houston, Detroit, Tampa Bay, the Giants, Cleveland, and Green Bay. We got a lot this week. Durham Smythe, Zach Ertz, Hayden Hurst, Hunter Henry, Luke Musgrave, Juwan Johnson, Adam Troutman, Turd Ferguson, Mac Jones, Sam Howell, Jordan Love, and Derek Carr. And then if Brock Purdy's out there, he's a safe option each week, essentially, at this point.
Yes.
All right, let's go to Twitter, @LiveTheStreamFF. For those of you who are not following us, we have some questions from the lovely, lovely folk over there. First one's from @Charles_Sword. It says, what's the biggest misconception you had or worst advice you received about raising kids? Mine was watching The Blind Side and assuming I could have an NFL offensive tackle as a son whenever I wanted.
Okay. I never assumed that. That's a good question. What's the worst advice, basically? Is that?
Yeah, basically the worst advice that you received with kids.
Yeah, I think this idea that you can like take days off, like you can like do your own thing sometimes, and like, you know, like be like be there for yourself, like do your own thing. Yeah. That's not happening. That's not happening. You got it. You're on 24/7, man. From the second you wake up to the second you go to bed. The sooner you accept that, the more content you'll be. Maybe not happy, but the more content you'll be. Because for a long time, I would like push back on that, and that sort of tension is not good.
Yeah, you have to accept the reality of the situation. And I think a lot of people like find these like hacks of like, you know, you don't need to do this if you want to still live your life this way or whatever. It's like, no, if you're having a child, it's an amazing thing, but your life is changing dramatically because the times where you just want to sit down and watch TV, you can't just do that automatically. You need to make sure the kids are in bed before you basically are able to do that.
That's right. I will say it gets harder as they get older. Like I used to be able to put the kids down, like both of them were down by like 7:30. Mm-hmm. And so I would have like 4 hours by myself or me and Melissa. And that was fantastic. But hey, they get older. Suddenly they're going to bed at 8 and then 8:30 and then 9 and then a little after 9. And then you're tired. So you're going to bed at 10 or 10:30. You know, that free time vanishes in a hurry.
Yeah. Next question @Walsh. Wash your mouth out.
Wash your mouth out.
That's a really hard one. Walsh your mouth out is what it is. Eric Walsh. That's a really hard handle to when all the words are jumbled together because there's a lot of different sounds.
I like that you challenge yourself to make these reads on the.
Yeah, to this day. If you had to spend 24 hours in an establishment for a fantasy football punishment, where would you want to be stuck? I'm assuming you can't say your house here.
Wait, what? What is it?
If you had to spend 24 hours in an establishment for a fantasy football punishment, like how people do the Waffle House challenge, I guess.
Oh.
Where would you want to be stuck?
Where would I want to be stuck? The golf course?
The golf course is a great one. I'd say maybe like Disney World.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. I mean, a golf course would be really fun. You could even just put me on the driving range. I don't even have to be on the course. Just
24 hours at the driving range.
I mean, you know, I get food, right? Food and drink.
Yeah, I'm assuming this isn't like a Mr. Beast challenge or something like that.
And a sleeping bag, maybe.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, you were on the golf course. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this question. There are too many possibilities where I would be totally fine with spending 24 hours somewhere.
I mean, like a nice hotel room. I'm just
like a suite and that looks out on a big city, and you can just hang out there and order room service.
I'm just spitballing, you know.
Yeah. Hey, there are many things.
Church, okay, for the wholesome folks.
Yeah, and just pray for a better fantasy team next year.
Yeah, right. Did you ever do those sleepovers in church? I did those when I was a kid.
I was a churchgoer. Well, my parents wanted me to be a churchgoer, and I was always like, I just didn't like getting up and going. Right. Whenever I got there, it was fine, but I didn't like getting up and going, and so I would fight it all the time. Like every Sunday morning, I'd be like, I'm not going. But there were punishments if I didn't.
Right.
And so I tried to not get involved in that stuff as much as I probably should have done.
I spent the night. It's creepy. It's creepy as hell to do a youth group sleepover in a church. You just feel like you're in like an Exorcist sequel or something.
Yeah, I can imagine. Next one @Justin White VA. As this podcast is hosted by the Sultan of Smoothies in the face of Hummus Time, I must ask: isn't hummus nothing more than a chickpea smoothie?
It is. That's a great point. Do you like hummus?
Oh, I love hummus. Yeah. And by the way, I haven't talked about this on the show, Denny. I'm not that big of a smoothie guy anymore.
Oh, No, it was just a phase, like I said.
Here we go. Here we go. The reason though is not because I don't like smoothies. I still will go to get to Clean Juice or something like that and get a smoothie every now and again. The real reason is I didn't like the blood sugar spikes in the morning and the, cause I mean, you're just eating sugar with smoothies, right?
Yeah. Right.
And then the lack of protein, even though I put some like protein in it, I now am a very, very protein heavy morning guy instead of going the smoothie route.
But you gotta keep your tummy full. Is that what you're
That's
saying?
right. That's right. Yeah. And the smoothies when you have a smoothie in the morning, it just doesn't give you as much life as having like a real meal. Because smoothies it's just like a treat. Like it just is you're done and you're immediately hungry 3 hours later.
Listen, my wife was into smoothies, banana smoothies or peanut butter banana smoothies, and they tasted great. I loved them. Yeah. She would make me one, and I would drink it in like 8 seconds. And honestly, I would be hungry like 15 minutes, 10 minutes later. Like I would like, okay, now it's time for breakfast, but that was supposed to be my breakfast. So I was confused.
That's right. One of the things I did this off. So it's going to make me sound like I'm this like health nut whenever I talk about this kind of stuff. I don't know if you heard though, I am gluten, dairy, and soy free. Have you heard about that?
I had not, but thank you for
that way. Yeah. It's going to make me sound crazy. Like I'm reading Peter Attia and I'm just interested in like how my body is functioning. Right. It's just to me, it's interesting. I wore a continuous glucose monitor this off season.
Wow. Really?
For 2 weeks where you put it on your arm and it tells you your blood sugar basically at all times. And so I could eat things and see how it affected my blood sugar, right? And you'd be shocked by some of the things that just will destroy you and then things that just don't. It's different for every person, but it's an interesting exercise.
So is the goal not to have blood sugar spikes?
You shouldn't have too many. Look, everyone has. That's what I'm saying. Like some people are like, no, you can't. I'm not like that. I'm just interested, right? I'm not like you can never have a blood sugar spike kind of person. It's just you want to make sure that your body is regulating and releasing insulin properly and stuff like that, of course. But it's more so too. Like I want to see if there are certain foods that give me that spike pretty regularly. The one food that crushed me, and this is a pretty common food that crushes people, white rice. I got destroyed by white rice. Destroyed. Yeah. So I don't do white rice anymore because of that.
I had a friend back in the day who like went to the doctor and they were like, you have to stop eating white rice, period. Like
it's not that good for you. Yeah.
No, you can't eat it. But yellow rice is okay. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't know. I turned like brown rice didn't make me spike like white
brown rice.
Yeah.
Brown rice. Yeah.
So if I go to Chipotle, let's say,
I get the brown rice.
Which at the expo, when we were eating stadium food, right? Like throughout the weekend, because there weren't that many options. Middle of the expo on Sunday, not a lot of people know this. I left mid expo and went to Chipotle. I drove to Chipotle just to get something like that was not, when we were at the expo, we were hanging out at the stadium at the Hall of Fame. So the expo, the fantasy football expo, Bob Lung puts it on. I went for the first time this past year. Denny, this is your second, right? Is that right? Third. Wow. Okay. So you're super cool. And so we all, you meet a lot of people in the space and it's a really good networking situation, really just fun to hang out with folks and drink a little bit and stuff. And the event on Saturday was at the stadium at the Hall of Fame. And I needed food really, really bad. And so I went to the stadium and I got a brat because that was like the only thing that I could probably have. Probably had something in it that I couldn't eat. And I had to take the bun off because I don't eat gluten, right? And so I'm eating in tin foil just a brat. Like that's all it's just a brat in tin foil. And I think it might have been Andy Behrens who had come up to me and he's like, dude, you got to hide. You have a brand to protect right now. Right? Like, I'm just like sitting there, like munching on a brat in the middle of the concourse there. But,
I do remember seeing that and thinking, yeah, this guy is committed to the gluten thing. I mean, you gotta.
I'm definitely committed to gluten. Gluten and dairy, man. Those two in particular. Dairy, especially. Dairy is rough on your boy. It's rough.
Yeah. To put it kindly, you went to Chipotle when you simply could have stayed and paid $11 for a hot dog like I did.
Right, exactly. Next question is from @Stairway to Evan 17. Why do people lean one arm against the wall of a public restroom while using a urinal?
That's weird. That's weird. Don't do that.
It is weird. I don't do that. I don't think I've ever done that unless I'm like, not even when I'm hammered. I don't think I've ever done that.
I know this is what I'm thinking. I'm picturing it like maybe if you've had so much to drink that you're like unstable on your feet, maybe then you're leaning. But if unless you're in that situation, there's no reason to do that. It's gross. It's gross. Also, don't be touching stuff in the bathroom.
Yeah, you don't need to. It's gross on a lot of levels because it's too much relaxing going on in a public space like that. Too much relaxing.
What you can't stand straight up. You've been sitting on your ass all day. You can't just stand up and pee.
Right. Yeah, it is a little strange. And not only that, but if there's people around you, like why are you leaning forward? Why are you? Yeah, why is that happening?
Deeply uncomfortable for everybody involved in the situation.
Do you think that this is more of like a cinematic thing rather than like a real life thing? Like when you watch a movie and you see someone like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom, and then they cut to the urinal or something, and the dude's just standing there, and you can hear his breath like releasing because he's peeing, and that's more of this like. But is it really a real life thing? Are people really leaning in the bathroom? If anyone's leaning in the bathroom, we need to hear about this.
We do. By the way, can we tie in another listener question to this? Because there was a question about, do you use your phone when you're at the urinal?
Yes.
And so, can we address that real quick?
Sure. Yeah, I think I favorited it, but maybe I didn't. So go ahead. Yes. Do you use your? Yeah, here it is. It's from @please_simulation.
Why is that so funny?
It's really funny. But it says, let's get back to the roots of the show. Is it weird to have your phone out when standing at the urinal? So what's your take?
It is, certainly. I would be lying to you, and I've never lied to this audience. I've lied to other audiences, not this one. I have done this. Okay. Yeah, and I'm a little bit ashamed of it because it means that I have crippling phone addiction. That's what that means. And I can't put it down.
I mean, I do it at home literally all the time. I don't think I've looked at my urine in a year and a half because I'm just looking at my phone.
Oh, isn't that funny, man? We as a generation, we are just hopeless when it comes to the phones. But I try not to look at it when I'm doing random stuff like, I don't know, urinating.
Yeah. Next question @Chase Erig. Erig.
We love Chase Erig.
EHRIG. I don't know how to really say that. Erig. While watching Hard Knocks, I noticed Robert Saleh kept referring to Rodgers as the GOAT. Who do you think is the worst quarterback whose coach regularly calls him the GOAT?
Oh, I don't know. That's a weird question.
but I think the question though is more so like, what coach is overly infatuated with his quarterback? Probably.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Okay. Like he loves his quarterback so much that quarterback is the GOAT.
Man, who would qualify here? I mean, probably Shanahan with Purdy.
I thought my first thought was Shanahan and Purdy, like after, but only in private. He's not out there saying it publicly that Purdy's the GOAT, but Shanahan is very into Purdy for sure. I also thought he's not bad though. I like Lamar Jackson, but I did think about the Harbaugh-Lamar Jackson combination a little bit. But at the same time, this offseason kind of ruined that for me. The way that all went down and stuff. So I don't know if that's the answer. But Shanahan and Purdy was the first one that came to mind for me.
Yeah, I mean, because Shanahan has literally said like 3 weeks ago, he said Brock Purdy would have to quote melt in order for him not to start. I don't know what that means.
Shanahan's quotes are low. Some of his quotes are low. Remember last year when he said that we could all, the nihilistic quote that he had about how we might not even be alive on Sunday or something like that.
That's right. Yeah. Shanahan has some dramatic quotes, but he's so committed. Purdy could throw like 8 interceptions this week and still start week 3. No questions asked.
Yeah. I could also see this might be a weird one. I could also see when Roethlisberger was playing with Mike Tomlin.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, Tomlin would talk about Roethlisberger in his like fading, glory years, not even glory years, like his final couple years, as if he was still the same guy from like 2005. It was crazy.
Yeah. Do you remember there was that period of time with the Steelers in like 2015, that range when Antonio Brown was at his peak and stuff, where like that offense was so fun and so good.
Fun.
It was so freaking awesome.
Yes.
And then everything just died on that season.
with Le'Veon, with who was the receiver, the big receiver?
They would rotate. They'd have Mike Wallace and then Emmanuel Sanders and yeah, I mean they went around and had
who was the alien?
Martavis Bryant.
Man, yeah, Martavis Bryant and Antonio Brown were like the scariest wide receiver duo in the league.
Yeah.
People won't remember.
Ben Roethlisberger had back-to-back games with 6 touchdown passes. Do you remember that? It was against like the Ravens and Colts or something like that. I think he's still the only player to ever do that. But
I remember that Colts game.
Yeah. That team aired it out, and it was so fun. And we need more of that in today's NFL because, my God, this past week was just an extension of 2022. It was horrible.
Well, it's the 2 high safeties.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's horrible. I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what even the great, supposedly like great matchups, Bengals, Bills, Bengals, Chiefs, whatever. It's all just check downs. There's nothing over the top anymore because teams play two safeties 50 yards off the line of scrimmage.
Right. Next question, at Tilt to Buddhism, which is another. The name of this is Tilting into Buddhism. My wife wears a shirt and then leaves it inside out through the entire laundry process, wash, dry, and fold. She won't correct it until she's ready to wear the shirt again. I put her in an asylum, but could I be overreacting? Yeah, I mean, that's probably overreacting to put her in an asylum.
But just a little bit. I mean, just barely.
That's a weird approach to laundry.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Is it related to like keeping the shirt in good shape?
Maybe my thought was that technically, like my thought originally is like, I never really thought about why we're doing laundry to clean the shirts and stuff, right? But what gets dirtier, the outside of your shirt or the inside of your shirt, right? Like what gets messy? Are you Rich says, and Patty says, my wife does this too. She said it cleans the inside better. Okay, that was where I was getting with this, is that the inside to many might be dirtier than the outside. My thing though is I don't care what the inside is about because that's the only thing that's affecting me. The outside is affecting the rest of the world. And so the outside needs to be cleaner, better, fresher than the inside.
Rich Ryan says, is typing in all caps in our comment section. He says he's tilting, which I can see. And yeah, I mean, no, that doesn't make any sense. Not even a shred of sense that, I need to clean the inside better. So I'm going to put it. Do you know what happens in the washing machine? Does anyone know? The water makes its way all around the shirt and the soap everywhere. And everything. That is wildly incorrect.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you were to put a shirt in a sink filled with water or in a swimming pool,
yeah,
the inside of the shirt is still getting wet.
It's still gonna get clean.
It's still gonna get clean if you fill that pool with soap. Yeah, this is dumb. It's actually good that your wife is now in an asylum because that's the only person who's gonna get right.
I'm sorry for your family. Mallory, a friend of the show, said it's good for shirts with print on it, like graphic tees. But beyond that, I'm not sure. And yeah, I actually do. My graphic tees over the years had fallen apart. I am now too old to wear graphic tees. This is what I've been told by my wife. So can't buy those anymore.
Oh, so are you a no graphic tees guy now moving forward? Like,
I mean, I feel a little silly. Wearing graphic tee. I mean, I like my graphic tees, but it's just different. It's just different. When I was 26, 28, 30, I felt okay wearing a Friday the 13th graphic t-shirt. Now I'm embarrassed. I'll say it. I'm embarrassed.
Okay. You could go my route and just buy a bunch of Dickies tees and just rotate and not even have to think about what you're putting on every day.
That's the David Lynch approach. David Lynch, famous director, he actually has the same outfit basically that he wears every day with slight variations. And he's like you. He's very smart.
I'm not very smart. Next question. We'll get to maybe one or two more. At John Football Seed, Do you smell your deodorant before you apply? My wife caught me doing, and I realized I've been doing it my whole life, even though I haven't changed scents since college.
Do you do this?
I don't do this, but I'm just picturing him like in the corner, like with his deodorant, just going, just aggressively sniffing it as his wife walks in. No, I don't need this. I know what it smells like.
I'm sorry. The point of this exercise is what? To make sure the deodorant is still working? To be like, oh, yep, still smells good. I can apply it to my stinky pits now.
Or is it a situation where he's just breathing a big breath in and just taking it in?
Here's what I do. And I thought this was the question at first. Here's what I do. I apply it right after my shower, and then I forget, so that right before I put my shirt on, I make sure and I go like that, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can smell the deodorant mixed with sweat already.
Yeah. So you're a deodorant after shower, not a deodorant after shirt.
No. After shower.
Sometimes it can get on the shirt too if it's a tighter shirt.
I pay extra for the kind that doesn't get on the shirt, whatever that is.
Yeah. Whatever the. I mean, that's because that's what we were talking about last week. We're elitists.
That's right, and I can afford that extra $1.50 per stick. Yeah, I mean that it's actually a scientific mystery to me. Like nuclear fission and that kind of deodorant are equally mysterious to me.
All right, we're gonna get one last question. This is gonna be the last one that we talk about this topic, okay? Because we talked about at the beginning of the show. We've been getting questions about this constantly. This is at Topher Thinks. Can Denny address his hair? Is it a comb over? Is he losing his hair? Is it a toupee? Is it merely a new product? His silence has been stunning.
A silence? I talked about it on the last show. It's not a toupee. This is something I've heard on the Roto World Football Show. Why am I wearing a toupee?
So by the way, Denny, I have to throw it out there because stuff like this can be hurtful, right? And I need to throw it out there that people just hate change.
They do.
Right? And so it has nothing to do with what it looks like. It has to do with the fact that if you started with that hair and went to your old hair, the same exact conversations will be going on.
So you're right. So it's not a toupee. When you say comb over, like I've parted it on this side for my whole life basically, and combed it that way. If that qualifies as a comb over, I suppose that's what I've always had. But no, there's no like swooping. There's no like Trump grows the back of his hair so that he like folds it forward and then combs it.
Yeah.
There's not that's not going on. Okay, maybe I'll do that when I'm like 70 or something, but it's not going on. I haven't gotten a haircut. I need a haircut. But so I'm using a powder product. I forget what it's called. It's just, I put a powder in, it gives it some body.
Oh yeah.
And, like I told you last week, JJ, it's way easier. I get out of the shower, I dry it, I put the powder in and I leave. I don't sit there for God knows how long doing my hair.
So when you get your haircut, are you going to be styling it the same way, or is this haircut going to force you to have a different style?
That's a good question. I think I'm going to stick with this. I like this haircut, this hairstyle. I like the product. I've seen myself in some pictures where I'm not horrified, so yeah, that's good.
That's good. That's good. I think it looks great. So everyone can shut up about the hair now moving forward.
It's
shut
funny,
your freaking mouths.
The toupee thing made me laugh because I'm like, hold up. I thought people were kidding, but they were serious. They thought that I bought a toupee and plopped it on my head.
But like they saw your hair before. Why would that be the solution?
Right. Did you think that I lost all the hair on top of my head within like 2 weeks?
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
What did you think happened?
Doesn't make any sense at all. Hey, by the way, before I let people go here, if you guys are watching on YouTube, we have an intro video where I made a countdown, right, for this stream. If anyone wants to put together like a cool intro video for Living the Stream, I'm down. I'm down for that. So if anyone's, we've thrown this out there for people, and we've had other intro songs and stuff like that. It's been really fun. But if anyone wants to, we'll give you credit. We'll shout you out, all that good stuff. But feel free, Denny. Otherwise, let everyone know where they can find you.
At CD Carter 13 on X and Threads. You can find all my work on rotoworld.com/NBCsports.com, including my Wednesday column, which we're calling The Regression Files. It's actually fun to write, and I hope you guys read it.
I'm on Twitter, on X, at Late Round QB. I'm also on Instagram, at Late Round FF. I'm posting stuff on there every single day. Obviously, subscribe to this YouTube channel, Late Round Fantasy Football YouTube channel, so that you can catch us live every week, Tuesdays at 3:30 p.m. in the only legitimate time zone. Denny, let's grab some milkshakes, man.
I'll do it. Let's do it.
All right, dairy free though, dairy free.
Naturally.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We will catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to Live in the Stream. We hope you enjoyed the internet podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes now. It won't take long, it's fast. For more fantasy football info, check out
LateRound.com and NBC Sports Edge.
Hope you come back soon as we share about the teams and as we live in the stream.